Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. We're here. We're live. It is Sunday, the 7th day of October, 2012. And we are going to be live here for the next 2 hours, as we are every Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m. Central. And back weekdays, of course, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central. That's 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern. Look, we talk about this quite a bit, and we talk about it to the point of it becoming almost passé and just some known quantity, an axe hanging above our head, a sword of Damocles hanging above our head, and then we just get accustomed to it being there. We become fatigued to it. We become acclimated. We become prepared, accepting. It becomes a foregone conclusion, a self-fulfilling prophecy. And it doesn't need to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. We don't need to be mindless spectators that just sit here and let history roll over us. In fact, I keep saying this. You guys keep giving it to me, and I keep not covering it on air. Will you guys print me the Karl Rove History's Actors quote? It was in the New York Times originally, but just New York Times Magazine. But it's quoted everywhere, just the part about they control reality. They'll tell us up is down one day and then sideways is down the next, and we'll just believe whatever they say. And yes, if you just sit there and watch television, read the newspaper, and don't see them contradicting day to day, don't see them completely spinning facts, and don't see that there's a public authoritarian agenda going on, you're living in another world. But when I say that we've gotten used to this tyranny, I know I have. Even as by increments, it gets worse and worse. And we've become accustomed to now FEMA admitting FEMA camps, admitting re-education centers, admitting the Rural Affairs Council, the Council of Governors, admitting the gun confiscation plans, the 1.6 billion bullets, the mass grave preparations that we talked about 3 years ago. We had different county managers and others on, and even disguised their voices on air. One from Indiana, where they were told, prepare for 1 million dead out of Chicago, because they're just 30 miles or so from Chicago. They're in that part of Indiana. And now here it is in Congress. It's passed the House, is going to the Senate to codify and fund a preparation for tens of millions of dead. And this story went up Friday afternoon. I've asked Kurt Nemo to repost it up at the top of Infowars.com. That's being done right now because some stories come out and just don't get the attention they need, they deserve. FEMA to mobilize for mass fatality planning. Bill mandates federal agency to respond to funeral homes, cemeteries, and mortuaries being overwhelmed. And that's what we got 3 years ago, was the secret reports. They were getting the funeral homes ready to be federalized, and even small cemeteries to hold hundreds of thousands. And then we had the reports coming from all over the country, internal memorandum, not secret but restricted, from the different state cemetery regulators from New York to Texas. We were called conspiracy theorists, and it was all a big lie. None of it was true. Of course, here it all is now, confirming it. So the point is, why is all this being ratcheted up? I mean, some continuity of government's always gone on, especially in the Cold War, but this is many magnitudes bigger. So what is the big mobilization and preparation for? I'll be breaking that down, tying it into the designed world financial meltdown that is being engineered, and the fact that there's a war now between Turkey and Syria. It's been a covert war for a while, but now it's getting a lot hotter and a lot more public. And Panetta, the head of the CIA, has come out and said this could turn into a wider giant war, which is exactly what I've been saying. But I'm saying, well, there's all these wars, but I'm the bad fearmonger. We all know that. Actually, everything's fine in the global economy. The police are saying in Detroit, though, don't visit because it's a war zone and they can't protect you. But, you know,
for thousands.
It is Sunday, the 7th day of October, 2012. I'm Alex Jones, your host, coming to you from deep in the heart of Texas, now FEMA Region 6, Austin, Texas. I love America. I love liberty. I love freedom. I love Texas. I love our constitutional republic. I'm a constitutionalist. I believe in rule of law, due process, the family, private property, and the good Lord above. The Second Amendment and the right to defend yourself and all the basic bedrock canons of our constitutional republic founded on July 4th, 1776. That is why I've been listed by Homeland Security and leaked and declassified documents as a terrorist. That is why I have been listed as one of the main threats, quote, to the federal government, because the federal government itself has been taken over by foreign banking cartels that brag that they've conquered Europe and the United States through derivatives fraud publicly in the Associated Press, Reuters, Time Magazine, Newsweek, CNBC, the Financial Times of London. We've played the clips here. We've read the articles where they brag and declare in our face that we are slaves and that they are bringing in a private, global, corporate, monopoly, capitalist, mafia government. And so I've drawn my line in the sand. I have committed to stand up and speak out against these people and to mobilize against this evil. I recognize it historically. They've declared it. I see the general public in a zombie-like trance, and I'm here, along with our wonderful listeners, activists for freedom, attempting to shake the sleeping giant that is free humanity, not just America, from its slumber. It is Sunday. It is October 7th, 2012, and we have massive news on the economy and the designed QE unlimited meltdown that will accelerate now. The social unrest exploding across Europe, now moving to the United States, but the media is keeping it quiet. Though, enter at your own risk. Police union says war like Detroit is unsafe for visitors. Other cities are seeing similar situations. That's WWJ Television reporting that. We're going to be breaking that down. You're going to see more of that in the future. Crime rates are exploding. The Justice Department has even had to admit that. Many cities have had to admit it. Remember, we're seeing cooked numbers because they want to try to have those numbers be a lot lower. But you need to know, folks, you better lock your house. You better carry a firearm. And you'd better watch your six because crime is absolutely going bonkers. A lot more police are getting killed. Police are getting more paranoid and shot 5 innocent people unarmed in the last few days, including a veteran a current National Guard person with no criminal record in New York. They say he cut him off, so they pulled him over and killed him. Just a lot of craziness going on out there. We're going to be breaking it all down today. Turkey is now into day, what, 5? Shelling its neighbor, Syria. Turkey has more conventional arms than even Israel and is a serious member of NATO. They have been bringing in the last 9 months at least, well, they debate the numbers, 40 to 50,000 al-Qaeda jihadis out of Saudi Arabia and other areas. U.S. troops are on record. They're training the jihadis. Many of them wear the black al-Qaeda uniform and the black al-Qaeda patch. We have videos of that up at Infowars.com. FSA rebel leader, we won't stop until al-Qaeda flag is raised over the White House. Well, you're run out of the White House, so no need. That's already done. Al-Qaeda was founded by Western intelligence in 1979. Zbigniew Brzezinski's written 2 books admitting it. He's the guy that did it. There you have it. They are blowing up churches, blowing up mosques, blowing up the oldest outdoor market in the world, a World Heritage Site. You can look all this up. They are admittedly bragging on camera with families held hostage that they will kill the children if the father doesn't go truck bomb the local police station. Our criminal government has never this publicly engaged in crimes like this. Our government and NATO and the UN, they're all run by the same mega banks, are publicly turning Libya over to al-Qaeda to engage in ethnic cleansing. They are publicly, in 9 months, just absolutely bombing military bases, blowing up the police stations, throwing families on video off the roofs of their houses, going house to house, just murdering en masse. With NATO special forces, that means U.S. special forces. You notice when troops get killed now, they don't say U.S. troops in Afghanistan, they say NATO forces. NATO forces are, this is LA Times, Reuters, Look it up, British SAS. In fact, put it on screen. We're also streaming video at prisonplanet.tv and link through at Infowars.com. You just type in, Western Special Forces or MI6 or CIA commanding the Free Syrian Army, who even the Red Cross has had to admit about half of them are al-Qaeda. And the CFR 2 months ago said, we need al-Qaeda. That was the quote, and how they're really doing a good job. Attacking preemptively Syria to overthrow a government who hasn't attacked anybody. This is amazing. And I know I talk a lot about this, but now last Thursday, some small mortars reportedly were fired out of Syria to the south that is being attacked by Turkey, pumping in al-Qaeda, trained by NATO and armed right there. And with even anti-aircraft missiles, you name it. They're also bringing in the anti-aircraft missiles, 10,000 of them, at least 2,000 radar or heat-seeking. That's admitted out of Libya. That's al-Qaeda, our government giving them all the weapons Libya had, bringing them in to the area of southern Turkey and then injecting them into Syria. And they came out Thursday night and said, Turkey has apologized, or excuse me, Syria has apologized for firing a couple mortars into civilian areas in Turkey, in which they have not been responding. They've not been attacking, even though they've been pointing out al-Qaeda's being brought in, because they know Turkey's got a much bigger military. And then Turkey came out and lied and said that Syria had admittedly said they'd attacked them and apologized. Of course, it turned out that wasn't true by Friday. And now Syria said al-Qaeda is firing back in as a false flag that the Pentagon and others have been openly talking about to have an excuse to then have Turkey go into Syria. And more mortars were fired today. So Turkey is just blasting Syria right now and opening up an even larger wedge to inject more fighters. Imagine, a country is training and massing al-Qaeda jihadis, mainly out of Saudi Arabia, Wahhabist, to inject them into the secular government-run system there with the diverse groups of Jews, Christians, Muslims, Sunni, Shiite, Alawite, and they are just murdering and killing any Christians or Jews they find. It's on the news in Europe, blowing up churches. It is unbelievable. And we are told that we've got to give up all our rights because al-Qaeda is hiding under every bed, every desk, every closet has an al-Qaeda jihadi in it. And so TSA has got to go in your pants, got to go into your wife's bra, got to drag your children off to a private abuse room because al-Qaeda is everywhere. But al-Qaeda publicly works for the mega banks that run NATO and our government. And it's just hiding in plain view, and the government thinks you're so stupid and I'm so stupid that they're doing all of this. Now, I'm going to cover that more in the second hour today, and I'm going to cover, they want to make flu shots mandatory. And 2 states have already moved to make it the law. In fact, it's now been done in Rhode Island. They tried to make it the law, but it failed a few years ago in Massachusetts. So this is a big deal. Because then the big vaccine makers can just mandate, buy off your politicians, and then force you to buy their product, just like they force you to buy government health care. And you know the nightmares of these big pharma companies, that's coming up. But first, when we return, I'm going to bring up a topic that is ultimately important. This is up at Infowars.com, link through to the White House website, govtrack.us. FEMA to mobilize for mass fatality planning. Millions of dead Americans, and it ties into the Army now not running patrols, but regular checkpoints all over the United States. We'll be breaking that down. You probably noticed in the last few years that when you watch the Kentucky Derby or the Super Bowl, you see regular Army and Marines searching people. You may have tried to go to a kite festival in Austin, Texas, and seen the National Guard out there. You might have gone to the San Antonio Riverwalk and seen Air Force MPs out, not just keeping an eye out for the Air Force people that might be drunk. No, for you. You might have seen U.S. troops up in Canada when they had the Olympics, quote, helping to control the Canadians, or Canadian troops over here at large events. Well, here's an article, Military Police Used for Crowd Control in South Carolina by Kurt Nimmo, and it links through to WISTV. And it was also reported in a local newspaper. It says MPs are just helping set up checkpoints and searching people. Now, it's illegal for police to do that, though they still just keep doing it, no matter how many times the courts throw it out. In most states. They don't care. It's just our money they use when they lose them. And the excuse is we're keeping you safe. I mean, after all, Al-Qaeda is out there. Of course, now we're told, it was in documents a decade ago, but now it's public, that, oh, it's not about Al-Qaeda. It's about gun owners, libertarians, conservatives. But number one enemy, you know it. You've heard it on the news. When we broke the documents that a federal marshal gave me, state police officer gave me some of the others 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago. You remember who's the number one terrorist? Returning veterans, because they may have actually read the Constitution, and they're not afraid to stand up for themselves. And, well, they know they've been injected with deadly vaccines, and they know that the government's trying to take their Second Amendment, saying they all have PTSD. And, oh, they're the number one enemy. But it's okay, though, because the troops that are currently in, they're training to confiscate your guns. And we have links to all this in these articles where it came out, 3 months ago, the Army manual that says re-education camps. If you don't believe me, just type in Army Manual for Re-Education Camps. It even uses the name re-education camps. That's not us using that term. They even use the Soviet term with all the horror that's associated with it. And when I covered it, they had an Army spokeswoman, very high level, a colonel, come out, and she put a press release out from one of the bases. You can go pull it up. It's in our articles. It said, well, yes, we do have re-education camps. The details are classified, and that's just the end of it. Yeah, there's the headline. Army Manual for Re-Education Camps applies to U.S. citizens. Isn't that just special? But it's not just that. It's under COG, or continuity of government. We've seen first 1 billion bullets bought this year, and then 1.2, and then 1.4. It's now 1.6 billion bullets, hollow points bought. But the last 200 million they bought was different types of .308 sniper rounds, and they admitted it. Said in the federal purchase orders that are public at the federal government's website. Let me pull it up for you at the govtrack.us that it's for sniper training. It's only 1.6 billion. That's 13 times. It was 10 times. Now it's 13 times because they ordered another 200 million. What they ever bought before in 1 year. And we've had police on the show who've told you that, yeah, they're being told it's for martial law. So my big question here is, we saw guns confiscated in Katrina. We now have another Army training manual. Just type into the search engine. I know my crews, they're doing it right now. If you're watching on prisonplanet.tv, if you're a radio listener, just type this in. Army manual discusses gun confiscation. You saw what they did in Katrina. Went in the high and dry areas. Made everybody go to the sports dome, Superdome, wouldn't let anybody walk out on the highways, made you go there, and went to the even rich people's houses and blew the doors off their safes and took their guns, took their jewelry. On ABC News is one of the newscasts. Just type in gun confiscation Katrina. There's ABC, NBC, Fox, CNN. Old ladies getting beat up because they won't give their revolver over. People with generators living in $15 million houses, literally. You know, high and dry. Here come the troops. Here comes the big red one. They were there. Here comes Army, cavalry. Ooh, yeah. Right in to take your guns because that's the default setting. How to cordon cities. There was that Army training manual came out a few months ago. Oath Keepers is so mad they've bought billboards outside the base where the Army colonel writing the manuals that have now been adopted says, we're preparing for war with the Tea Party. But wait, it got better. They talk about how to cordon the towns, how to arrest the mayors, because well, they know about, you know, the West Texas mayors and judges have gone public saying they know the takeovers happened. So this is the type of stuff going on. I mean, you know, you've heard about the state judges, county judges, people saying here in Texas, you know, we're not going to go along with this takeover. Well, the Army is training. But you know why they said they'd take on the Tea Party? In that Army manual, it said because the Tea Party is going to link up with Al-Qaeda. They predict in North Carolina. That's right, the Tea Party works with Al-Qaeda. No, NATO and the globalists run Al-Qaeda, not the Tea Party. And you're like, well, that's ridiculous. The Tea Party is. Oh, yeah? If they come arrest you and say you're with Al-Qaeda, folks, your neighbors who might, you know, play poker with you, they're going to salute as you're taken to a FEMA camp and call for your torture. Because it's patriotic to torture. It's patriotic to have no due process. It's patriotic to have the NDAA where the government says they'll disappear you in the middle of the night. It's patriotic to have the NSA spy on us without warrants. It's patriotic to pay $22 billion to ship GM to China, Cadillac and Volt plants. It's patriotic to hate America and freedom. Okay? That's why I'm a bad person, because I love freedom. All right, continuing. Now, here's the new article by Paul Joseph Watson. We've relinked it at the top of Infowars.com. FEMA to mobilize for mass fatality planning. FEMA to mobilize for mass fatality planning. Now, Kurt Nimmo wrote this. Paul Watson wrote this Friday. But I should ask him to relink to our article 3.5 years ago where we had the emergency manager. I mean, I knew his name, but we didn't give it on air. They had emergency management in a major county bordering Illinois, 30-something miles from Chicago. And he said, all I know is they're giving us millions of bucks and saying, get ready for 1 million dead people from Chicago alone. And they said, it's not a question of if, but when you will have 1 million dead Chicagoans that we're going to bury here. We're going to truck in and bury here. And they went over Jews and Muslims must be buried within 48 hours. So we've got to check their IDs and all this stuff. People are like, oh, that's not true. Then I had whistleblowers in New York, Texas, Arizona, California. Well, you've seen our articles. Guys, type in cemeteries prepared for mass casualties, Infowars.com. It'll actually show Aaron Dykes' article from 3.5 years ago with the scans from New York and Texas. Then we had mortuaries and what do you call them, cemeteries, send us, the funeral directors. Well, we're not supposed to give this out, but yeah, we got the letters and we got visited by FEMA, and they said not a question of if, but when this is going to happen. And it's all in there. So we broke this here, okay? We broke it here on the air, Infowars.com. Well, here it is. You can go to govtrack.us. This came out Friday, and it's passed the House. H.R. 6566 for Mass Fatality Planning and Religious Considerations Act, and it just says they're preparing for millions of dead bodies, and I'll deal with it. And see, there's a major ratcheting up for all of this. Yeah, there's our old report. Plans for mass graves confirmed. Government surveying cemetery readiness for flu outbreak, and that's going to tie into next hour and the flu. You actually get the flu from the flu vaccine. I even have mainstream news on that. But I want to give the number out when we come back and ask you, what are they gearing up for? What are they gearing up for? All right, I'm giving the number out here in a moment. As you know, we don't screen your calls, but occasionally I say, hey, first-time callers, or I say, hey, we're wanting calls from police officers who would like to talk about the fact that 1.6 billion bullets have been bought, or I say, hey, they're going to try to make every first responder take forced inoculations under the Model States Health Emergency Powers Act. That was 2002. And it was in the news that sheriffs and fire chiefs and you name it were saying no to forced inoculations of 14 million first responders. EMTs, nurses, doctors, police, state police, county, city workers. And that program got stopped. They were giving smallpox shots to the first responders. They started the program. Pure color of law. It wasn't even law. They said, you got to have this job. And so many people died from it. If you go back to the news 10 years ago in 2002, they suspended it. They suspended the program because the LA Times reported they only shot up 6% of the 14 million first responders, and hundreds died from it. And they had big trouble keeping it quiet. Just like 3 separate times the last 20 years, they've had, more than 20 years, 21 years since 1990, they have done forced inoculations of troops with anthrax shot. You can make troops, because they've waived their rights, take an approved vaccine, but not experimental. Why am I digressing off into this? Under this medical tyranny that I'm going to cover next hour, that ties into this martial law preparation, they are going to force all the first responders to take shots. And they're starting with nurses saying, you can't work here if you don't. There's no law. They just say, you can't work here. Well, now, Rhode Island has passed a law for forced inoculation of nurses. And, folks, it's going to be police next. And so you need to understand, a lot of you are going to go along. You need to understand why you die, why you get sick. A lot of wives out there and wonder why your husband has a convulsion coming home from work one day. Well, nobody's going to tell him back at the police station it's because he went and got the flu shot. I mean, it's on the stinking insert, but it doesn't matter. So we're going to be going over all that in the next hour. Big report on that. Before I get back into this whole martial law situation and give out the number, we're selling out of this again very quickly. I printed 100,000 of these. We put 50,000 of them on the streets of Austin. We've already got people lined up around the block, great folks, as we codify the program, to roll out the new InfoWars magazine in cities all over the country, where part of the news will be local. But this is kind of the mothership global edition. And we've now put out 2 issues of it. The first time I put it out, we put 50,000 on the streets, printed another 40,000, 37,000, 36,000 sold out in a day and a half. This time I printed more than 50,000 extras on top of the 50,000 we put on the streets, and we've still got some left, about, I don't know, 12,000 or so, but they're going quickly. So if you want to buy it in bulk, the new InfoWars magazine, the new October issue, DARPA, The Real Skynet, October Surprise War, ? The End of Humanity, Rise of the Robots, the elite's own words, how they plan to replace us with machines. This is an emergency transmission. And then the first issue from September, people that subscribe get this issue as well, and the next 12, and shipping is included free of charge at InfoWarsStore.com. InfoWars magazine, The Economic Collapse, Banksters Plot to Destroy the U.S. Economy in their own words. Banking Cartel Conquers America. History of False Flag, Stage Terror. Rome Burned, Will We? Since then, they've got fires and rioting all over Europe, and we predicted that would happen. Print 2.0, The Answer to the Internet Kill Switch. These are great. Thick magazines with great graphics to give friends and family to wake them up. I can't say it really supports the broadcast because the subscriptions and buying individual issues at bulk, we're selling them at cost as a pamphleteer like the Founding Fathers did, or my ancestors that came to Texas. Well, my dad's side in 1830, the others in 1825 or so, as the Texians. I shouldn't get off. I visited the Alamo again this weekend with my kids, and it's just really interesting that my family were the folks that brought in the Bibles and all the rest of it, really got the rebellion going. But that's a separate whole story. Protestant Bibles weren't allowed in Texas, but that's a side issue. We are living under an incredible tyranny. And if you want to get the magazines and get them out to people, they're available at cost at InfoWarsStore.com, along with the books, the videos, the T-shirts, all the rest of it, that are not at cost. Obviously, that's how we finance ourselves, is through the free market. We're not like mainstream media, most of them that get banker bailout money or stimulus money to give Rachel Maddow raises. Did you read about that? What is it, 500,000 of hundreds of millions that MSNBC got of taxpayer money as stimulus went to her. See, people are like, Alex, you shouldn't sell products you believe in to fund your operation. The biggest alternative media organization and most successful in the world now. You should just, be more moral and steal taxpayer money. Well, I'm sorry, I don't do that. Okay, I'm ranting. I'm done ranting about that. Yeah, there it is. Labor Department spent $500G in stimulus on green job ad blitz on Oberman and Maddow. Yeah, that's separate from that. There was even whole nother program there, and they got $500 million in MSNBC. In banker bailout money. Okay, let's stop right there. If you just tuned in, Army manuals are public for re-education camps, mass arrests, gun confiscation, forced inoculation. Type in clergy response teams. Every major church in the country that I know of, unless it's a private evangelical or private individual church, has been federalized under 501c3. And if you type in clergy response team, you'll see newscast with preachers saying, we've been trained under martial law to tell you to turn your guns in and take shots and go to FEMA camps. I can play newscast. There's multiple newscasts with them admitting it and saying it's a good thing. So if you're a new listener and you wonder why your preacher every Sunday's telling you to give in to government, do what you're told, turn your guns in, it doesn't matter if it's Catholic, Baptist, the churches where my parents have gone, they basically teach that, world government's a wonderful thing, and Bill and Melinda Gates hung the moon. It's just amazing. I was talking to some friends this weekend. They were talking about the Presbyterian church where they'd gone forever which is super conservative, hung a red cloth, and this is happening nationwide at Presbyterian churches. Not all of them, but most of them. The cross is now bad and hateful, so they can't show the cross in Presbyterian churches. I mean, we got taken over. World Council of Churches, run by the UN, Rockefeller Foundation. They've got consultants at all the churches now. The federal government says if you want faith-based money, taxpayer money, even though Congress can make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, government cannot be involved. That's the separation of church and state. Now government flips it around and says, no, government has to run religion, and religion doesn't have any independence. That's what Thomas Jefferson said. No, Thomas Jefferson said the opposite. So you can't have state-run religion. But then they twist that, and then Christians don't like Thomas Jefferson because they've let the media lie to them about what separation of church and state is. Separation of church and state doesn't mean that First Baptists are the only religion here, or Muslims that happen to be Wahhabist, or Catholics. It means freedom of religion. That was one of the big things 1776 was about. That's what the Texas Revolution was really about, was the fact you couldn't practice anything but Catholicism in Texas. But that's another issue. It's the same fight over and over again. And I was talking, in fact, I'm going to send crews out to these Presbyterian churches, so send us links at whistleblowers@infowars.com or showtips@infowars.com, because we've confirmed there's churches right in Central Texas which have now taken the crosses down. Because they're hateful. Oh, in Europe, they're banning reading passages out of the Bible they say are hateful. Canada has arrested preachers for saying homosexuality is wrong. Whether you agree with that or not, it's free speech. This is such authoritarianism. Every basic liberty is being overrun right now. Every basic freedom is being abridged right now. At every single level. It's happening right now. So I ask you, the listeners, why are they gearing up? What is the giant preparation for? Why are they gearing up? The economic collapse, giant war with Iran? Here's the toll-free number to join us. 877-789-ALEX. 877-789-ALEX. 877-789-2539. It's Sunday. We're live. We're going to come back and talk about the preparations for total collapse. Stay with us. Again, I just want to thank all the listeners, sponsors, AM and FM affiliates that make this broadcast possible, and our incredible crew, my wife and family, and, of course, the good Lord above. I was also talking to people about all the churches they're going to, friends and family, and they were talking about how, yeah, all these big mainline churches now say, we don't say the word Jesus, because that could be offensive at Christian churches. Or if we do, it's not Lord Jesus or Jesus Christ. It's just Jesus, our avatar, our spirit guide. I mean, no wonder the churches are collapsing. They've taken God completely out of it. I don't mean to start preaching here. It's just that this is a government takeover. This isn't happening on its own. We've got a lot of people on hold. Pete, Gary, Dan, Abe, and I don't know, 10 or so others that we're getting your names on. I'm going to go to you right now, but you see all these TV shows about the end of the world and revolution and collapse and all this, so that when things start collapsing, we're almost ready for it, that we just expect it's normal. But it's being engineered, as the globalists have stated, Maury Strong and others. They want a post-industrial world. They want to use poverty to control us. This is all being artificially done, and it doesn't have to happen. And I see the signs of the deep recession we've been in for 5 years. They say the recession ended 4 years ago. They put out countless fake economic employment numbers that have been proven fake. John Williams Shadow Stats breaks that down. Economist Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, the former head of Reagan's operations, and head of policy at the Treasury, it's totally fake. It's above 22%. California's above 30%. Even 60 Minutes did a study on that last year. It's above that now. Areas of Europe, some areas of Spain have 50%. This is a global depression by design that the bankers brag, not the free market bankers, not your corner bank that's being shut down by globalist regulators, but the mega banks. And so FEMA's preparing for millions of dead and getting that lined up with the mortuaries and mass graves and the equipment and the plastic coffins. That's all confirmed now. And they're gearing up. It's not like it's some old program they're continuing. And you've got all these preparations. What do you think this is about? I'll take your calls. for about 30 minutes to the next hour. Then I'm going to get into forced inoculations and all of that news. But right now, let's go ahead and go to Pete in Rhode Island, where they've passed a law saying all the nurses have to take whatever vaccine the government says, basically the flu shots, which I have mainstream articles. And government of Canada says the flu shot doubles your chances, the average flu shot, of getting flu the next year. But, of course, it gives people the flu in many cases. I have all the mainstream articles I'm going to cover next hour. But is that what you called in about from Rhode Island or something else?
Hey, Alex. No, my name's Pete. I'm from Long Island, New York.
I'm sorry. It said R.I. there, Pete. Okay, so you're from Long Island, not Rhode Island. But it's still an island. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, we're in the general area. I'm actually a first responder. I'm an EMT for a major hospital out here on Long Island. I'm a Navy veteran. Was a private investigator for 14 years. I actually met you down at Bilderberg this past June with a couple of buddies of mine. We run a website called Concerned Citizens News Network.
Oh, that's right. It was great talking to you guys. Yeah, you guys are doing a great job.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And so are you, Alex. Thanks so much for waking everyone up, people who are concerned. And I just wanted to say that there are some stories out there that they're going to make first responders like myself, EMTs, either get the flu shot or have to wear a surgical mask as we're treating patients.
Yeah, let me stop you. It's not a story. Just like Gulf of Tonkin was never a rumor. It came out in Congress that it was staged. There was an investigation, and it was in the local San Diego paper when the ships came back in '64, but no one ever had those documents. It became word of mouth and a rumor. It's the Model States Health Emergency Powers Act. They tried to make you all take shots in '02. Then they said they would phase it in by first making first responders wear masks, then intimidating you into taking it, then passing laws. It's not a rumor. They've now passed it in Rhode Island. Go ahead.
It's not just a story. I actually misspoke. It was actually something I read in an article, and it's been being passed around throughout the healthcare system, that we're either going to have to take the flu shot or wear a surgical mask because, we're treating patients.
Yeah, and it's pure bull. I mean, the idea is you are dirty, you are bad, you have the flu, when the flu vaccine never covers the current flu, and it lowers your immunity in major studies I'm going to read next hour. It's a total hoax, sir.
Yes, it is. I firmly believe what you're saying. I firmly believe the stories that are being passed out there through the media.
So tell me, what's your take and your fellow first responders' take on this?
We're totally against it. I would say in general it's about a 70-30 split that we're totally against it. It actually goes against the Constitution. They can't force us to do something that it's just against, it's anti-human.
You're right. In fact, let me read this to you. This is out of the Providence Journal. Rhode Island becomes first state to mandate flu shots for healthcare workers. Breaking news. This just came out Friday evening. And understand something. They cannot make you put things in your body, A. B, they admit that the Civil Liberties Union, the healthcare workers' unions, all of them are against it, and they admit that almost all of the union members are against it, but they don't care. But I read this more closely. It's not even it's a mandate. It's not a law. Remember Rick Perry 5-6 years ago? He said, it's the law. All girls 11 to 13 must take Gardasil, an experimental vaccine they couldn't even get approved, but government can, quote, mandate it. Mandate just means they're saying they want you to take it. And then a bunch of girls died. Well, they died in the test. But by him saying it's mandated, it now got liability protection and access to a $7 billion federal fund. So Merck could dump, who's well known for that, a deadly drug on the market. But Perry got destroyed. In fact, many analysts, even the Washington Post, chalk up his defeat in polls to folks learning about the Gardasil. So this is Big Pharma can buy people off all day long. Yeah, there it is. Rick Perry's HPV mandate returns to haunt him. Politico. It's also in the Associated Press, you name it. So I'm ranting, sir, but it's a hoax. I've now had time to go look at the, quote, law they passed, and all it is a mandate where they say it's the law. Have you heard before school every year they say it's the law to take shots to go to school? There is no law. Again, even if you're for the vaccines, folks, why are they lying and saying it's the law? I appreciate... Sorry, go ahead.
Claim that it's policy.
Exactly. It's all just a bunch of policy. I appreciate your call. I've had police all over the country, God bless them. You know, they're humans too. They're dumbed down like everybody else. I want them to live in a free country. I'm not their enemy. Come up and say, you can't videotape. And I'm like, I'm 100 yards from you. I'm not interfering with you. And and they say, well, I'm still going to arrest you. And I have to say to the cops, I go, what's the law? They go, it's our policy. You know a policy's not a law. And I stop it. Well, I'm giving you an order. But is that order lawful, officer? And they arrest most people when they refuse. They don't know how to talk to them. The cops always back off because they go, listen, I'm going to sue you. You may even beat it, but I don't want to be your enemy. But you cannot violate the sacred First Amendment. And the cops are like, every time. I've got it on video. Get mad and run off. One time the Austin commander I was protesting Rick Perry at an event down at the Omni Hotel. And Perry sent they had the cops getting in their riot gear across the street to intimidate us. And the cop in front of the newspaper and TV station was like, I didn't say I'd arrest you, even though we had it on tape that he was saying, we're going to arrest you. And you see those riot police with their batons. Imagine being a cop and saying, you see those riot police? You see the batons? Like, that's going to scare me. And it was the fact that he challenged me that I had to say, okay, well, go ahead and do whatever you got to do. I'm going to keep protesting. I'm not blocking a street. See, they lie to you and say you have to get a permit to protest. Only if you want to shut down streets. See, they get you into procedures. It's just like churches until about 1950. No churches were 501c3 charities. No longer churches, they become charities. It's a bait and switch. I'm ranting here. We're going to go to break, and I promise just come back and go to your phone calls. But see, once they trick the churches over, then churches don't even remember once that they were standalone outside of government. But then they opt in. Congress can't make a law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. They have no jurisdiction, federal or state. But by getting the churches to sign on, they go, oh, you have your tax exemption, just fill out this form for your charity status. They trick you via contract fraud to step into that and waive all rights. Same thing with vaccines. And again, I'm not saying the science of vaccination couldn't have some benefits. It's a 500-year-old technology. It's got its problems. The issue is eugenicist population control groups founded all the big major pharma companies in the last 150 years. Look it up. And the Rockefellers funded Hitler. Everything Hitler did is what you call eugenics. And the eugenicists went underground through big pharma and the medical tyranny. They used medical tyranny in the Soviet Union, also in communist China. They used medical tyranny on the political dissidents. That's what we're facing today, is a medical tyranny. We'll be right back. Well, the feds are announcing they're going to get these bioscanners on the highways that claim you've got drugs on you as probable cause to harass you. TSA is going to get them. What a hellish world we're building for the predators to be able to feed on us while their boss is shipping the narcotics. Let's go back to your phone calls. Let's talk to Scott in Colorado, and then we'll go to Gary and others. Go ahead, Scott. You're on the air. Hey, Scott. Yes, sir. I do hear you.
All right.
Okay.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah, there is. You're on air. Go ahead.
So, yeah, with these mandatory vaccinations that they're making our service workers take, it shouldn't be a surprise because they are dumbing down the Stasi force that Obama's putting in place. I did go out there and I protested Mitt Romney and Barack Obama when they came here on the debate. And like you said, is voting even going to matter? I was thinking about voting for Gary Johnson, but more and more I'm leaning away from not even participating in the corrupt system. Because like Gerald Celente says, or Max Kaiser, I forget which one, if we don't participate, and over 60% of us don't participate, then we can prove that the Republican, Democrat, corporate parties are the problem, and we can actually change the system then. But I see so many diehard Obamianists and Republicans that look at Mitt Romney like he's the second coming of Ronald Reagan, and it's a joke.
Oh, Obamniist. Oh, I like that.
Obamanist.
Obamanist.
Obamniist.
Obamni-Romneyist.
That Freudian slip. They're both the same. There's no difference.
Obamniist.
I look at Mitt Romney like he's a Frankenstein douchebag, and then you look at Obama with this condescending, socialistic behavior.
Well, there's no doubt that Obama is worse, but it doesn't matter because they're still on the same team. It's incredible. I appreciate your call. Let's go to Gary in New Orleans. Gary, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, Alex. I know you remember me. I remember going to your studio in the final days when you're about ready to move to the other one to get advice on my own radio show.
Yeah, I remember you and your wife or girlfriend came to visit. Yeah, what's going on? I think I've been on your radio show before.
We've been hosting Patriot Radio for 5 years. We follow everything. We listen to you every day, and we pretty much promote everything you're talking about. And you did thank me for taking action back then, but I'm taking more action now. I'm actually running for Congress of the United States against Steve Scalise, who's voted for the Patriot Act twice, the National Defense Authorization Act, the Disclosure Act, and the number one his number one campaign contributor is NALCO, the makers of the deadly dispersant Corexit, and they were the number one supporter or lobbyist for the Restore Act, which has nothing to do with restoring our coastline. What they're going to do is take the BP fine money and give it to the federal government, and it's the usual suspects, the EPA, the ecosystems, fisheries, and just all that kind of stuff. So I'm calling to ask for your help. If you want someone that's completely awake, I would like to at least announce my website, and even more, I would like for you to help me out because I understand everything that you're talking about and the current congressman.
Well, brother, I have certainly tried to help everybody, and I tried to help you out with advice. I think I met with you for about 30 minutes, even though I don't have the time. But I'm just a regular guy myself, pretty darn burnt out some days. But, I mean, here you are. I think everybody listening to us in Louisiana or that area should go get behind you. I think I've been on your show as a guest. I know I've heard a CD of it. Somebody sent me once at least. I've been on your show, right?
Yeah, a couple of times now.
Also, sure. So here's the deal. Give out your website for people that want to support you. All
right. My website is, type it in the browser, www.yourvoiceincongress.org, O-R-G.
Sure, yourvoiceincongress.org, or just your name. Your name's Gary King, right?
Gary King, and if you remember, we met in Dealey Plaza. We were at the End the Fed rally. I'm actually in the Obama dissection.
Sure, brother, you're doing a great job. Keep it up. And if everybody did what you were doing, we'd win, because just being in the debates, just going to town halls, you're going to inject real issues. Beautiful, great job. We'll be back in 1 minute with more calls.
From deep in the heart of FEMA Region 6, Austin, Texas, transmitting worldwide, it's Alex Jones.
We are back, second hour of the Sunday transmission here every Sunday live, 4 to 6 p.m. The Sunday show has just exploded to, I don't know, close to 80-something affiliates. The weekday broadcast, I don't know, it might be getting 5 affiliates, 6 affiliates a week, and I mean big stations. 50,000 waters, you know, but we love every one of them. The fact that my radio show is becoming more and more accepted because people go and look up the facts I'm claiming. The fact that my radicalism is now becoming more and more mainstream shows that America is waking up, because I haven't changed other than becoming more informed myself over the years. And people realize there is a world government. There are foreign banks bragging about conquering us. They are training the military for gun confiscation. That's even in mainstream news. They are running military checkpoints on highways in California and North Carolina. Here's one right here. South Carolina, military police used for crowd control in South Carolina. On the highways, at football games. I mean, WIS-TV. This is so creepy. It's all happening. Why? And people are like, hey, support the troops. The troops don't want to be on highway checkpoints. Why are we being acclimated for a collapse? Why are they training for civil unrest? Well, now the troops call in and go, well, we've been told we're getting ready for a financial collapse or hyperinflation or both. Yeah, and I've been telling you this for at least since 1998 with economists like George Humphrey here on the show. By the way, I want George Humphrey back on, guys. I know he lives in like 5 different countries. Such a successful businessman in his own right. Former city councilman here in Austin, good friend of mine. But, I mean, he was the first guy who said, you know what derivatives are, Alex? Well, this is who owns them. This is who runs them. This is what they're going to do. And I said, how long, George? Oh, about 10 to 15 years. Then they'll implode it all. And, I mean, it's just, wow, it's all happening. And so here we are. What do you think they're gearing up for? Are you concerned about what's happening? And after I take a bunch of calls, I'm going to get into all over the country. They're telling people it's the law to take vaccines when it's not. Rick Perry came out 5 years ago and said it was the law for little girls to take Gardasil. It was all a hoax. And that destroyed his career. I agree with AP and Politico and others because they did the polling. There was no law. There is no law to take any of these shots. They're liars. And I'm going to expose Big Pharma. But let's go to your calls right now. Dan, Abe, Karen, Leah, Chris, Andrew, Michael, Malcolm, Anonymous, Tobias. We're getting to all of you. Dan in Knoxville, Tennessee, where I know we're blasting out. Tell us what affiliate you're listening to, sir.
We're listening to WNOX 100.3 in Knox, Vegas.
It is a giant blowtorch. We're glad to be on there. What's on your mind today, sir?
Well, first off, I just wanted to thank you, first-time caller. Just want to thank you for your service to the country, formerly known as America under a constitutional republic.
Yes, sir.
Now under globalist rule. But there's a lot of things I wanted to get to. But first off, I just wanted to let you know the New World Order is not getting anywhere in Tennessee. So everybody I talk to around here, I'm trying to wake people up constantly, and you're totally right. The general public is completely dumbed down. And,
people are either totally dumbed down and not awake, or they're awake. But I found of all the places in the country, Texas and Tennessee, I've got to say, are probably the most awake out there per capita. And it's probably because Tennessee founded Texas, so we all know that.
So, yeah, yesterday there's some Boy Scouts selling popcorn at the grocery store, and I just asked one of the moms that was out there with the Boy Scouts, I was like, is that genetically modified corn? And she goes, I don't know what that is. And I was like, look it up. It causes sterilization. And they're like, okay, we'll look it up. And I was like, please, really, look it up.
Well, that's what I do. I mean, I don't just talk on the radio. I warn people everywhere. I saw this woman who was a nurse with her kid at Walgreens where they got all the signs for the flu shot. And I just had to say something to him. I said, please go look up the Canadian government study and others that when you take the flu shot, it doubles your chances of getting the flu that year and the next. And I said, look up flu shots, Alzheimer's. And she said, okay, I will. But most nurses I talk to already know it. They're just like, what do we do? They say we're fired if we don't take it. Well, sue them. Start saying no. I mean, America had more freedom than any other country because we stood up and demanded it. You don't get freedom lying down to, quote, authority, especially when that authority is absolutely tyrannical.
These vaccines and all this aluminum that we're getting from multiple sources is increasing the Alzheimer's, not to mention the autism. But listen, like, the writing is on the wall, and just to all your listeners, only an idiot wouldn't prepare for this. It's going to be...
Why do you think they're gearing up for... I mean, now they admit they're gearing up for what they call civil emergency or martial law. What do you think's going on?
Well, my personal opinion is that there's no question it's definitely going to be a declared national emergency and martial law because of one of three things. A false flag, number one, a war, number two, or a monetary collapse, number three. And it's one of those things, just like with the QE Unlimited. We're damned if we do, we're damned if we don't. So it's just a matter of, you look at Iceland. They had a peaceful revolution, and their economy is rebounding.
They're the only country to throw the bankers out. The bankers 3 years ago said, and I appreciate your call. For those that don't know, you can look it up. So we had members of their parliament on. There's only 400,000 people in the whole country, but very smart, hardworking people. And they said, oh, you owe, was it $10 billion? And it was like something like 300-something thousand per person. You can look this up. And they said no. They protested for over a year. They just stopped. They just shut society down in Reykjavik, their capital. And then when they threw out the ministers and arrested the other ministers, they found out 93% of all the debt was not theirs. It was foreign banks. They'd signed them on to the bankers' debt. Same thing in Europe, same thing here. The Federal Reserve creates the debt, it's private, and then it signs us onto it and tells us our $15 trillion debt is the whole debt of 1.5 quadrillion. 99% of the debt is theirs. It's not ours. All right, let's just stop right there for just a moment. I want to keep going to your calls a little bit quicker here, but while we're talking, the crew is pulling up articles. They pulled up ABC News, ABC with a major Canadian government study. There's 2 of them in Canada alone that the flu shot gives you the flu. Put that back on screen. That was great. That Mercola article, because halfway down, it shows the ABC link. Move down. There it is. New study confirms flu vaccine really does increase your risk of serious pandemic and flu illness. Folks, it just came out that the major vaccine makers are putting it in the vaccines to cause the epidemics of MMR, you name it. That's in mainstream news. This is not my opinion. It's over the top, folks. Let's go ahead and cram in another here. Abe in Middle Tennessee. Another call from Tennessee. How you listening, Abe?
Hey, man, how's it going?
Good. How you listening?
I'm listening pretty good. Hey, listen, that last dude, Dan, I guess his name was, from Knoxville.
Yes, sir.
I'm listening off the same radio station as him, man. For you to know, up here in Tennessee, we're not having this stuff, period. And the point being is that I live in a small town, about 90 miles away from Knoxville. But I live in a town full of, I guess you would say, old country men and women and stuff, and they're not going to give up nothing.
Well, that's why they're listed by Homeland Security, rural, conservative, libertarian, and veterans, as the #1 enemy of the globalist.
Well, that's another point I was going to bring up to you real quick, is that it kind of freaked me out because I've been listening to you for about 2 years, and all of a sudden I saw in the newspaper in my town I live in, we got a mobile FEMA trailer in my county, which is like maybe 14,000 people in this. It's a pretty big county. There's a lot more cows than there are people. And it kind of struck me, like, why would they bring that up here? And there's a National Guard armory, too, right down the street from where I live at. Okay, so we know what you've been talking about.
Oh, yeah, just this week they had mass inoculation drills nationwide where they got thousands of participants to take real shots at the events. And again, it's medical tyranny. They can use a bio attack or just a hyped-up epidemic as the pretext to bring in more control, and then the emergency never ends. Just like after 9/11, we never got our liberties back. Thank you for listening on WNOX out there. We'll be right back with more of your calls. Stay with us. Right, crashing through the lies and disinformation, waging war on corruption. Thank you for joining us here on the Sunday transmission. By the way, when I get into vaccines later, I've got the CDC's own 20-page handout on side effects and deaths. And then I'm going to read mainstream news telling you there are no side effects from vaccines. I mean, it's just all a big hoax, and I'm tired of it. So that is coming up, and I'm going to tell you where to get this at the CDC website. If you're a radio listener, if you're watching on prisonplanet.tv, you can see it all right there because it's flu season, and they are hyping these shots that, well, give you the flu in most cases. Everybody I know has figured this out, though, because they're like, yeah, I never have the flu. I took it and almost killed me. Yeah. Just incredible. So that is all coming up. Right now, let's go to Tobias in Copenhagen, Denmark. Then we'll go to Karen and others. Tobias, calling us from Denmark. Welcome.
Alex.
Yes.
Okay, yes. I have 3 issues. You turned me into a pro-life. I used to be for abortion. I'm not anymore. I want to thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And I have just seen that my local trains, they've begun to write the UN all over it and the insignia and how they're helping the world all over the place, while they're not, as I can see from what the reports you're coming with.
Oh, and, yeah, no. I have a cyber news service report, and I went and looked it up. It's even in mainstream news. They're now setting up these FEMA Corps high schoolers that are going to patrol the streets, telling people and writing mock tickets and calling police for environmental infractions and wasting energy. They're going to be called energy patrols. Mao Zedong would be proud.
It's insane, and also the World Health Organization and their vaccines all over the world. It's insane. And also one more thing, I have an idea for the army, not any kind of dangerous stuff, but try to circumvent the general elections and hold their own election and show the public which candidate they would support.
By the way, I saw I think it was AP, guys, try to pull it up earlier in the week and never covered it because I had so much on my plate. 99%, just type in 99% of military ballots not delivered. They are just, for the first time ever, they're just not giving the military the ballots. They're just not sending them out because they know the military is absolutely against the Obama nation. And again, even if you don't like the other guy, the point is the veterans, the active duty, don't they have a right to vote as well? Not according to Obama and his people.
Yes. And are you receiving me?
Yeah, yes, sir. I'm sorry. I'm just adding points. What else is on your mind there from Denmark?
Taxes. I mean, we have around a minimum of 40% tax rate and a 25% VAT rate and a lot of other kinds of taxes. So I think we should reduce all those. And one more thing, David Icke, I am looking forward to hear his presentation on the 27th of October. I can't wait to hear what he has to say about the New World Order and everything that is on his mind.
Well, you have the former Czech Republic president just exposing, and he's come out and said, this is an authoritarian takeover. I could have never imagined when I was fighting the Soviets 20 years ago that we would be taken over by the EU tyranny. In fact, he just came out a few weeks ago and said that. Just incredible. Anything else, sir?
No, I just want to wish you well, and I hope you save your republic and spread 76 all over the world.
Well, God bless you, sir, and say hi to everybody over there in Denmark. My wife lived there for a couple of years. Her dad was a diplomat, and she said it was the most beautiful place she ever lived in. I've never been there. I'd like to go there someday. Let's go ahead and jam in more calls. Karen in Arizona, formerly Arizona, FEMA Region 9. Welcome from FEMA Region 9 in occupied United States.
Thank you, Alex. I got a couple of things to mention. First of all, I think it's going to be a combination of all. Second of all, that the people people are getting educated on the genetic modified organism right now, because I went to my local health food store and they're selling seeds of deception. Also, I went to that sustainability conference on the August 17th. Sorry to say, I didn't see one picketer or protester there.
Yeah, for those that don't know, the UN said this 3.5 years ago at Copenhagen at that big meeting. They said, we can't get Congress to let the U.S. be taken over fully by the UN. We're going to come in with federal bureaucratic money and buy off the cities and counties. Every town around Austin, and where I live in Austin, is officially the world model of UN governance. And I am under UN government in Austin. Only county in Texas where we have to pay for the abortions with taxpayer money at the county level. I mean, it is incredible. And, of course, you were first mentioning for people when you called in, because, again, you were kind of communicating like we're just talking privately. Why don't you flesh out exactly what you were talking about? Okay,
I went ahead. They had a sustainability conference, or they called it a retreat, at the Prescott Resort in Prescott, Arizona. So I was hoping to get a lot of people there that would line up on 69, because that would have been perfect. I went ahead, and after work, I went to hear Amanda Reeves talked about how she's getting her law degree in environmentalism, and how she gave her spill. So after that, I talked to her and educated her who really...
Yeah, but you're not going to be able to investigate most of these people because they've gone and gotten degrees to be our minders, to be our bosses, to be the environmental police. And it's not environmentalism, it's communism. I appreciate your call. Great points on that front. And I'm glad the lady actually commented on my question to listeners. The big gear up for martial law, is it going to be economic, a war, a bio-attack? At the heart of this is preparations for bio-attacks. But then we know the globalists are the ones that launched an anthrax attack against our own government. You know, that later came out, U.S. government strain. Let's talk to Leah in Austin, Texas. How are you listening to us?
Oh, of course, on KLBJ.
590 AM. Well, welcome.
Thank you. Alex, long time, maybe almost a decade listener, but first-time caller.
Welcome.
And thank you. And thank you for all you do. You certainly woke us up. But I just wanted to let you know that, with the holidays coming up, I just wanted to let people know, last December, we rented a car, Hertz, basic standard rent a car, to go up to a very important family wedding. after many deaths in the family. So this was our big time for fun. And we got to outside of St. Louis. We were in Missouri, and we got stopped for speeding. Apparently it went from 70 to 60. We didn't notice. The guy was real nice. He said, you know, you have no tickets, you have no priors, you have nothing. I'm going to write a warning for you. And let me say this. My husband is 62. I'm 55. So, you know, okay, great. So he goes back to get this ticket, this warning, and the cop comes up a little while later and says, I'd like to talk to you about some stuff. I said, okay, what can I help you with? Well,
stay there. Let me guess. They have a political database, totally illegal. It's what the Soviet Union had. And he wanted to ask you about that. Then they fill out these reports. Guys, print me the Senate report from this week about innocent Americans put on terror list. I don't know what your point is, man, but we're going to get to it right after this break. But I'm guessing that's what it is. We'll be right back. Okay, Leah called from Austin, Texas. They were up in St. Louis, Missouri to go to an evil wedding, probably even Christian. That's even worse. You know, Homeland Security says that's a #1 terror group right there that they're after returning veterans. They say anybody who believes in the second coming of Christ is in a cult. That was Janet Reno said that on 60 Minutes. And so I agree. I mean, I'm evil. I'm just, period. I like the Founding Fathers. I like the founders of Texas. I like freedom. I like being honorable. I like being informed. I'm bad. But, ma'am, I was speculating on what happened to you because I happen to have the Associated Press years after we wrote on this ad nauseum. Intelligence effort named citizens, not terrorists, millions of them, for no reason. They want to put us all in databases, so it makes them feel like we're criminal and the narcotics trafficking government's the good guys. And here's Wired Magazine. We reported on it. U.S. Army characterizes people frustrated with mainstream ideologies as terrorists and people who believe in conspiracies. And the cops, a lot of them now, they have this intelligence database they pull up full of a bunch of gossip, lies, you name it. But also, it actually demonizes people with Ron Paul stickers, you name it. Get us out of the UN stickers. But I'm speculating. I don't know. The listeners don't know. So you're speeding in a speed trap. I love those where it says 60 and then it's 40. And then, it's so hard to catch them. And it's designed that way, not to get real dangerous speeders, but to get, some revenue. But that's how that works. I love how they'll get on the bottom of a big hill, too, where it's 65 and you forget you're going 70 and they get you. But it's all about revenue generation. But continuing, what happened to you? He calls your husband back. Start over.
Well, he called my husband back because we've got no tickets, no nothing.
No, you're evil.
Yeah, so we're just going to write you a warning ticket, and it's only going to take 20 minutes. But 15 or 20 minutes later, he came up, and he wanted to ask me some questions, and I said, sure, what? Well, where are you going? Where did you spend last night? This is a rent car, all kinds of questions, and I was happy to answer them. And then he said, well, you rented the car in Austin, but you spent the first night in Fort Worth. That's not very far from Austin. Why would you do a thing like that? So he got me mad, and I said, we would do a thing like that because my cousin and I are the only ones left in our family.
How about it's none of your damn business and the government runs Al-Qaeda? Have you seen the news where they've got them blowing churches up over there? You use this to take our liberties in a power grab. The CIA created Al-Qaeda, and the government ships the narcotics in publicly. 1996 congressional hearings, and the government runs the Sinaloa cartel and ships guns into Mexico. I am so sick of that. When a cop asks me if I got drugs in my car, what, did you put them there? This country's gone, folks, if we don't wake up to how much trouble we're in. We've been overrun by tyrants. The former president of Czechoslovakia, Czech Republic's come out and said that. We're under tyranny. Anybody who's read a history book knows it, and now they want to shut down our... Ma'am, I'm sorry. Okay, just finish the story. Go ahead.
That's okay, Alex. You're the one who woke us up, so you won't believe what happened after that. Anyway, I was mad, and I said, because everybody's dead, and we spend our Christmases together. But since we're going to be in Illinois for a family Christmas, we spent the night with him to celebrate Christmas early.
Well, you don't celebrate Christmas in America, lady. What, do you want to sell lemonade? What, do you want to be Amish? That's the enemy. I'm sorry. What else happened?
Well, I would be the one to say, hey, go ahead and search the... Well, anyway, what he said was, after asking me all these questions, he said, your husband doesn't want us to search your car. And I said,
well, how about we search your car? How about we search his car? How about we make him guilty? And instead of having some TSA perv do stuff at the airport to teach us we're guilty, we're bad, they're God. It's all about dominating us. So finish the story. How did this end?
Okay, well, so the guy said he doesn't want us to search the car. And I said, oh, yeah. I said, my husband is a constitutionalist. He still believes in the Constitution. This is a
that was a red flag. That's listed as terrorism, and I'm not joking.
Well, I would have been the one to say, go ahead and search the car. But my husband is strictly
No. They have to do that to get to plant stuff on you. They have to say you let them, or if they don't have you say let them, planting it doesn't send you to the pen. Go ahead.
Well, the first cop said, okay, since you won't let us search your car, we're going to bring a dog. He's going to sniff around. And
a big fat dog that gets fed cookies whenever he alerts. He would alert on a fire hydrant.
This was a neurotic dog, Alex. If you saw this dog and you had
no, I understand. That's who they use. So like, what ended up happening?
Okay. What ended up happening was that he called for 30 minutes and couldn't get a dog, so he let us go. 20 minutes later, we are in Illinois. We are about to make our exit, and my husband says, oh, God, there's somebody in the fast lane going like 40 miles an hour. He has got traffic backed up forever. Of course, this is Christmas shopping time and all that.
Okay, so what happened?
Well, he pulled in behind us, and he was Illinois State Trooper. So then he came and he asked us, what's the name of the person who is taking care of your dog? And what is the name of, where are you going?
Yeah, you've been putting an intelligence database that they spend $2 billion a year on, teaching us to live in Soviet Union and answer questions. And they look, you turn on the dramas. It's all where they torture people and they're all secret agents and it's so cool to be evil and all the patriots are going to blow stuff up. And these cops watch this all day and go out and simulate it in a delusion, running around all paranoid while their bosses are narcotics trafficking murderers who ship the drugs in and run white slaves worldwide, congressional testimony. And so it's all, so again, it's about putting you in a database and then simulating roundups once it all starts with you. This is all just a simulation program. But anyways, finish, because I got to get to the other news and calls. How did this end?
Okay, this ended by him saying, we're going to search your car. No, okay, we're going to bring in a cop. We're going to bring in a dog. So they brought in the dog. They had 3 state troopers. The dog signaled. The dog barked, so they said, hey, you're going to have to get out of the car, go back to one of our troopers'
Okay,
cars.
so how did this end, American scum?
3.5 hours by the side of the road going through everything. He tried to put me in the back of this state trooper's car, which has got wire in the back, so I would be in a cage about 2 feet by 4 feet.
And these guys watch shows fantasizing about torturing people all day.
Well,
every cop show I turn on now, it's about torture and secret police. You got mentally ill, low IQ people just fantasizing about pulling our teeth out with pliers. Go ahead.
I know, Alex, you got to stop watching that stuff, man.
No, I don't. I monitor enemy transmissions that are government paid for on record. But my mom was even telling me when she goes to the gym, every time there's a cop show on, it's like, I want to torture him. I thought I get to. They're rolling it out with the sheeple. So you got to tell me, ma'am, how did it end?
Okay, all right. So the one of the cops said, well, first of all, he tried to shut me in the back, and I stuck my foot down as he was shutting the door, and I said, don't you dare shut that door on me.
Oh, whatever. We're all prisoners anyways. Wrong. So how did it end?
Okay, well, they said that our stories were all over the place. And I said, my husband is a retired teacher who doesn't even lie if I say, does this dress make me look
They don't
fat?
care. They don't care. It's about training you to be a slave. Do you understand that? The schools are about training our children to be slaves. It's a criminal government. They lie and say you got to take Gardasil shots, and it's the law. And they killed people with them. I mean, they say in the newspaper, I've got it right here, that there's no side effects from vaccines. There's hundreds. I have the CDC's own printout. This is a criminal government. Just because a cop isn't a criminal himself, that's just because, he might have had some good parents. On average, they're criminals even if they don't think they're criminals because they're stomping on the Bill of Rights and Constitution at every level. So how did it end? How did it end? How dare you try to drive somewhere? Should have been an illegal alien. You would have been God.
Right. Ask me every kind of question. He said
we got 30 seconds.
All over the place.
We got 30 seconds. Right. How did it end?
Okay. It ended with my husband watching them go through everything, and they found nothing. And my husband said, how would you like me to come to your house and go through your wife's negligees and take everything out of her drawers? How would you like that? Don't you think about
And what did they say to you? What did they say to you?
I was in another squad car.
So how did it end? How did it end? How did it end? How did it end?
They said, Merry Christmas. Go on your way.
Hey, those cops, take your vaccines, drink your fluoride. You're going to be burying your kids. I wish you weren't going to kill them. Have your abortions, eat your GMO, believe in the system. Because America is going to burn because of you. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoy who you've signed on with. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Government cover-ups.
You want answers?
You want answers?
Well, I do.
Well, so does he. Live from Austin, Texas, broadcasting worldwide, it's Alex Jones.
As hard as I try to not get into cops every show, I know a lot of police are good men and women, despite the evil that runs this government. It's a lot bigger than Obama. We get back into them because it's going to be the police and the bureaucrats are where the rubber meets the road. You're the ones, when they start this civil war, that are going to be dealing with the American people. And I'm here trying to wake you up. But let me tell you something. I've seen police corruption firsthand. I know what's going on. I've dealt with it. I've seen it. And look at this Associated Press article. Millions of Americans put on terror databases for no reason under orders, the Senate report. Intelligence effort named Citizens Not Terrorists didn't catch one terrorist because they can't catch terrorists. They work for the banks. Let me explain this. Foreign banks have conquered us. They run and have federalized the police by and large, and they are training them to be evil, okay? It's that simple. It's easy to understand. When the Nazis took over France, they took over the police. You can say, well, Gaston's a nice guy down the street, but you know what? He takes the orders of the Third Reich now. So some counties and states are saying no to this, and that's good. But, I mean, let's get this out in the open here. We're in a lot of trouble. We're in a lot of trouble. Man, I've got hundreds of mainline reports about the different cancer viruses they put in the vaccines. Don't believe me? Just type cancer virus found in vaccines, SV40 into a search engine. Look at these articles, and I'm going back to your calls. Look at this, okay? I already talked about this earlier. I'll talk about it more tomorrow because it's flu season. This is the Providence Journal. Rhode Island becomes first state to mandate flu shots for healthcare workers. Within this is the lie that there is no law. It's just a, quote, mandate where they try to force you and call it state policy, just like they did in Texas with Gardasil. There was no law, but they got on the news 5 years ago and said it's the law to take this, an experimental shot that killed people. Look at this Longview Journal. News-journal.com. Take your medicine. Listen to the condescension. Getting a flu shot is part of being a good neighbor. That argument that you're going to hurt others if you haven't had it. Hey, if you've had the flu shot, I thought you're protected. Why do I need to take it? You see, I'm informed. I read the insert, and it says, quote, there is absolutely no harm from getting vaccination. Don't let yourself be fooled by wild rumors. Look at this. And by the way, I bet money that this was paid content that they put as editorial, because it didn't say who wrote it. They always do that. A lot of these are paid articles in newspapers. I don't know that about this one, but I mean, you'll see this in your paper, similar stuff. Don't listen to wild rumors. Oh, really? Let's go over the wild rumors. Right here, CDC, possible side effects from vaccines. And it goes over all of it, 20 pages of it. You want to go read this? Death, pneumonia, inflammation of the intestines, epilepsy, neurological disorders. I mean, go read it. Go read it. Death. I mean, that's a wild rumor. CDC. I remember 10 years ago, they'd say it's a rumor that there's mercury in the shots. I mean, folks, they sit there and go to your public school, your government training camp. They'll say there's no waiver for the shot when it's in their drawer, and it's not even a law for the waiver. They just are supposed to tell you it's a law. Here's another one. New York City schools dispensing morning after pills to girls without parental consent. Associated Press. Big Pharma, criminally no longer a conspiracy theory. Bribery, fraud, price fixing, and now a matter of public record. Naturalnews.com breaks down dozens of mainstream articles admitting GlaxoSmithKline and others in bribery, fraud, Merck knowing their vaccines were hurting people. It's all there. It's unbelievable. Here's this paralysis cases spike in wake of Bill and Melinda Gates' polio vaccination effort. 67,000 children got paralyzed in India after being given it. Unbelievable. Here's ABC News from Mercola. India's polio eradication, 47,500. That's before the number went up to 67,000. ABC News goes over this. Vaccine made individuals more sick, worsened H1N1 symptoms. ABC News. Uncovered FDA documents reveal 26 more Gardasil deaths. It's in the hundreds. Polio immunization, over 67,000 kids. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Unbelievable! Don't believe the wild rumors. Oh, look, flu jab linked to fits in under 5-year-olds, banned in England. Don't give shots to kids under 5. Japan banned it 15 years ago. 10-fold increase in epileptic seizures. London Telegraph, BBC. I'm putting it on the stinking screen. Stop being ignorant. Stop letting them lie to you. It's come out in the Chicago Tribune and El Paso Times. In the federal court, they ruled national security on narcotics being brought in under Fast and Furious. Of course they bring narcotics in. You got a national security state that can do whatever it wants. There's Senate hearings on them kidnapping little kids for snuff films, for God's sakes. I'm risking my life to warn you about this. This is not a game. This is not a joke. This is not a drill. We have been totally overrun by evil, and the American people see a uniform or a government bureaucrat, and they literally fall down and worship it. That is not the creed of a free people. That is the creed of slaves. And I've written my line in the sand, folks, and everybody that knows we're going in the wrong direction better step across it with me. Everybody else who wants to sit there and go along with this, then that's your decision. But there's no more half measures in any of this. Anonymous, real fast from Arkansas. You're on the air. We're going to go to Andrew, Joe, and Malcolm, at least those callers. Go. Malcolm's calling from Roswell, Georgia, where they killed a guy who had 20 chickens for decades legally. They sent the Army in to kill him there. Oh, yeah, they use the Army now to take out veterans. Go ahead, Anonymous from Marshall, Arkansas. You're on the air.
Yeah, Alex, thanks for letting me voice this. I'm a big listener, not just to you, but to many different facets. Information. I find you rarely ever wrong, even in your hypothesis to be wrong. Let me tell you what happened to me. I've been up here trying to educate people on everything from jury nullification to all these other things that are going on. They came to my house on a trumped-up misdemeanor charge in the middle of the night, cut my locks on my gates, came in and illegally searched me and seized me, arrested me on 5 felonies, kept me in jail 6 days on a $125,000 bail. I'm positive this is because I've been basically the little boy in the Emperor's New Clothes pointing out that the Emperor... It
doesn't matter. Take that persecution and go to the next level. Intensify your efforts 100 times.
Absolutely, and that's what's going on. And, you know, if there is a silver lining out of this that's happened to me, it has finally convinced and woken up my family. We are business owners, and we are in the process of selling our businesses, liquidating our assets, and we're leaving this country. Because I really don't believe there's going to be an awakening. If there is, I will come back and be a witness against these people and see that they get a fair trial.
No, I hear you, but here's the problem, and I'm not blaming you for leaving. It's a new world order. It's a global government. This is a worldwide corporate anti-human dictatorship. Anti-God, anti-family. I mean, the White House science czar has written 4 books, Eco-Science. Read the passages online about putting stuff in our food and water to reduce IQ and sterilize us. They've been doing it. They're killing us. I mean, there's more declassifications of the chemtrailing. They're spraying aluminum on us. I mean, that's what's so sad about even the dumb enforcers of this. They're victims. They're being murdered, too. It's so sad. God bless you, sir. I appreciate your call, and I'm sorry that happened to you. There are a lot of good areas of the country still. There are still areas where it's not pure evil. But this worship of government is what is empowering it. The TSA, that is all there to break your will and train you to have people grab your wife and kids and take them away from you. It's all part of the clergy response team that they have the preachers preparing. Churches nationwide are removing their crosses. I've got a report coming up this week. I mean, they get federal money. They remove the cross and don't say the name Jesus. Presbyterian, Methodist, you name it. I mean, this country, folks, it's a takeover, man. Let's jam in a few more here. Let's talk to Andrew in Pennsylvania. You're on the air.
Hello, Alex. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, hi. I want to let you know that I've been listening to you for 8 months, and I got a major announcement. I'm happy to let you know, and I want to congratulate you on letting you know that you have brainwashed me into wanting to run for Congress to put an end to tyranny and bring the spirit of 76 back into this nation.
Well, awesome, sir. Send us an email with the info. Tell us where you're running in Pennsylvania.
Well, my plan is to run for the State House Representatives.
When you do it, send us an email. We'll plug your site. I got to go quick because I want to go to Malcolm in Roswell, Georgia, where our reporters were 4 months ago, where they killed the old guy with no criminal record for his chickens, and the word is they sent the Army in. Go ahead, Malcolm. You're on the air.
Hey, Alex. Yeah, thanks for taking my call. Yeah, they did kill that guy. My mom actually knew him. She's a public defender, so it's kind of crazy. The Roswell Police Department is absolutely nuts, man. I mean,
yeah, they fortified they fortified the city council after our reporters came up there. What is it, $1 million fortification?
Yeah, it's a huge city hall. If I had known your guys were there, I would have come out and said hello. But no,
but they said they had to fortify it now because our reporters came once. And then we've looked at the records. None of the police were involved. And, well, you know the new system. They send in the Army. Because this country's so gone, man. God bless you. I appreciate it. We're out of time to the other callers. Lord willing, I'll be back 11 a.m. Central, 12 noon Eastern tomorrow. Infowars.com. Our republic is burning to the ground. We better save it.